Hi, my name's Jade Novarino. I'm an artist, farmer, cook, lover of food and people. I farm with Campo Colectivo, which is a mostly no-till bilingual farm in Hillsboro, Oregon. We all come together and sort of make our decisions horizontally about our crops. We do profit sharing, and first and foremost, we care about the soil and the conditions that we work in. So it's a really sweet farm. Check us out. We have CSAs. They're market style. So you come to the market, you tell me, hey, I have a half share, a full share, and I tell you take 6 items or take 12, and then you pick your items. So you're not going home with anything you don't want. But I might convince you to take something you've never tried. I'm going to be preparing green beans 2 ways today. I'm going to do lacto-fermented pickling and vinegar pickling. The beauty of a CSA is that you have all of this abundance, and that's also the challenge of a CSA, because you're like, it's taking the time, the vegetables, they might rot. Pickling is a great way to preserve the vegetable, and it's a great way to also get different flavors out of it that you wouldn't get by simply boiling or cooking in a different way. Lacto-fermented pickling requires salt, brine, the vegetable, and the beauty of that is you can do any combination of flavors. Today I'm going to do lemon peel, dried cayenne chili, ginger, dried garlic, salt, and water. Okay, so here's the process. Shout out to H&A Farm. They're a wonderful farm, I think in Dayton Island, and these are green beans from them. Okay, the first thing that you want to do is find your vessel. I'm going to use this mason jar. I'm going to tare it on a scale. Fear not, if you don't have a kitchen scale, you can sort of just fill it with water and guesstimate. Pickles are playful. They're experimental. So I'm going to use numbers, but you can use taste and sight and all of that. All right, this is a good level of jar fill. You don't want to go over the lid, but you also don't want to underfill it. So this is about how much you should fill your jar. A lacto-fermented pickle is using salt and water and an occasional burping of the jar. So you leave it out on your countertop. The salt and the water, there's microbes, basically creating carbon, and or CO2 rather, and it's going to bubble up. So every 2 days or so, you're going to open the lid and let the bubbles flow, and then you're going to close the lid. This whole process takes like 7 days, unless of course we're in a heat wave, and then it might take 3. I should also say keep it out of direct sunlight, so put it somewhere kind of dark in your kitchen or a pantry. Just don't forget to burp it. It's like a baby. It needs you. You need it. Okay, so this is a good amount of bean in the jar. Now I'm going to add water to get my final weight. You want the water to create a seal, so you want the water to be covering your product completely. So we're at 860 grams. We need to find 2 to 3% of that. And so let's see, 3% of 860 is 25. So 25 grams of salt go into here. I'm using sea salt from the San Juan Islands, but you can use kosher salt for this process. People have been pickling things for thousands of years, so, I'm not precise about this kind of thing because I think once you get into the rhythm of it, you understand what's going on. Sort of, you embody it. I like to shake it up so that the salt is distributed. Okay. And now we can add our spices. Like I said, I'm going to put lemon peel, dried chili, ginger, and garlic in this one. All of this is also to taste, so your preference. This is ginger that the collective farm grew last year, and I dehydrated it, though I think fresh ginger would be lovely as well. And same with this. If your CSA ever comes with like chilies that you don't know how to process or don't get to in time, like just window dry them. This is a cayenne, and I just strung, a string with cayenne, and now I have cayenne this year. So that's really nice. Things are gonna tend to float, because it's salty water now. So we'll get to that in a moment. But you're gonna want to weigh down your pickles. Again, if you don't have a scale, just taste your water. It should taste salty like the sea, like really salty. So these pickles are living. They've got microbes that are going to help process the vegetable down, and can then become shelf stable for about 2 months. I'm not going to say any longer, though. I think they could go for longer too. I think you'll also probably eat them really soon. But you can leave them on your countertop. You can put them in the fridge. They're just going to make a really nice snack, and they're going to be so well seasoned that you can just add them to a green salad, and you have something complex to put in your salads. I'm also going to put some peppercorn in here. It's never a bad thing in pickles. Again, this is also to feel, and you can't go wrong. You'll just keep making them and adjust. So after you've prepared your pickles, and it's taken about a week, let's say, to break down, and you'll know when they're ready because they're gonna stop bubbling as ferociously. In the first 3 days, it's gonna be like soda, and then by day 7, it should be a little more mellow. At that point, you can keep them on your countertop if you're going to eat them pretty soon. Otherwise, you can can them. However, that will kind of kill a lot of the beneficial bacteria in the pickles. Or you can put them in the refrigerator, which won't kill them, but it will slow them down. So you can keep them in the fridge for a long time and on your countertop for like a month. Okay, the last thing to know about lacto-fermented pickles is that you want to completely seal off their environment to air. So you want to keep everything submerged. Like I mentioned earlier, the salt water is going to make everything float. So again, you want to find some way to push them down. Some, hobby fermenters and more serious fermenters purchase weights for this process. I end up always using kitchen things. Like sometimes I'll just put a bag and fill the bag with water. Then that water acts as the weight. We got crafty and we found a ramekin. So as long as it fits in your jar, I filled the ramekin with water to make it even heavier. And good night, sweet green beans. Voila. Make sure it's nicely sealed, and we'll check back in a day or 2. So like I mentioned earlier, this process could take up to a week. It's the summertime, so the heat of the environment is going to make those microbes act a lot faster. So you might have activity starting tomorrow, so the day after you already closed the lid. Once you start to get a feeling like, I'm going to check on it, you're not going to hurt it. So just occasionally open it, and you're just going to open it really slightly. Like when you open a kombucha or something like that, you hear the fizzing. That's what you're going to hear. You're probably going to see bubbles coming from the bottom up, and you do not need to open it all the way. You don't need to take the lid off. You can just let the air escape and close it back up. Day 3, do the same thing. Basically, do it every day so that you can kind of determine the level of the bubbles. Once the bubbles start to calm down, you're getting closer and they're going to be ready to eat. The longer you let them ferment, the more complex and interesting the flavors are going to be. Right now, it's purely salt. So in 7 days, it will have combined with all the other things we put in there. The chili, the ginger, the garlic, the peppercorn. Just have a relationship to your pickles. Check on them every day. Maybe set a time in the morning, like when you're making your coffee, check your pickles, something like that. This next method for pickling is vinegar pickling. The main difference is that there are not many microbes in this environment because the vinegar and the water solution end up getting cooked. This also, sometimes people call it quick pickling because you could, in theory, eat it tomorrow and it would be extremely flavorful. But this is also a great method for putting up lots of food because you can can it in a water bath or a pressure canner, and you won't be killing any of the beneficial bacteria. You'll just have pickles for a long time. These are the green beans from farmer Noemi at Farm DC, and they're a little bit different than the other ones, and that's the beautiful thing about shopping at the market. You get to see all types of varieties and figure out why people grow what. In this pickle solution, I'm going to do garlic again because I'm a garlic hound, peppercorn, bay leaves, which are also from the bay tree on the farm, and I'm going to do fennel frond because we're not growing dill at the moment, but I kind of feel like fennel and dill are a nice thing to interchange. And to process these, I bought about 2 pounds, so I kind of feel like sometimes when I buy in bulk, I just make it a part of my hangout with a friend. Like, oh, you want to come over? You're going to help me process beans. Don't treat it like it's a chore. Treat it like it's your life. It's just what you're doing today. Now, I did try to cut the ends off with a knife, but I do find that working with my hands can be a bit faster and more enjoyable to me. But you can definitely take your knife and slice the ends off. So for this process, you're going to need vinegar, a stove, salt, sugar, and all the sort of spices, herbs that you want to add to your pickles. So I'm going to let the vinegar warm up. I'm going to be really liberal with this and just eyeball everything. You want water and vinegar, sugar. This sort of definitely helps cut the acidity, but you don't need to put sugar in your mix if you don't want to. So I just put my vinegar in this 32-ounce jar for ease of transport and measuring, and then I put about 2 cups of water in this mixture. You can do 1 to 1. You can lessen the water, you can lessen the vinegar. It's very much up to your palate. I think it's really important that make sure it's not extremely hot, but swirl it around. You could definitely use a kitchen implement, but I'm using my hand, and just give it a taste. You want to let this concoction go until the salt and the sugar are dissolved, and then give it a taste and see. It's too sweet, or it's too vinegary, or it's too salty, and then adjust. While that's doing its thing, we're just going to prep the jar. I should mention that these jars were pre-sterilized, which is an important thing if you're going for longevity. Bacteria lives on every surface, so again, if you want these to be shelf stable, if you're going to can them, what have you, boil both the lid and the jar, and then you can use them. They're sterilized. I'm putting in fennel frond. I know that dilly pickles are very popular. I didn't have dill on the farm, so I'm using fennel frond. They're both in the same family, so sometimes I feel like they're easy to substitute one for the other. Of course, fennel's going to be a little more licoricey, but I think it's lovely. And I'm sticking garlic in as well, and I'm going to put some fresh bay leaves. All of this stuff can also be dry, so if you have a pantry and you have dill seed or fennel seed or dried bay, it's a great thing to use. They don't need to be fresh. I just happen to be working with fresh ingredients. And again, depending on how much of the flavor of the other ingredients you want to impart onto the pickles themselves, you'll put in a lot or a little bit. And then I'm going to pack the beans in. With vinegar pickling, you don't need to be worried about that airtight environment, watertight environment. because we're not really capturing microbes here. So you can kind of fill this jar a lot. And another difference is we won't be using a weight to weigh everything down. We'll just be closing the lid and letting it do its magic. Most of my salt and sugar have dissolved, but I still see granules in this water, so I'm going to let it go until the water is clear. That's sufficiently salty and sweet and acidic. I really like it. Everything's dissolved. But the liquid's still too hot to pour over everything, so I'm going to let it cool just a little bit and then pour over the pickles. So I've just let the pickling liquid dissolve, cool down a bit, and I'm going to pour it onto my green beans and fennel mix. And we're finished with the vinegar pickling as well. This is not something you have to burp or open. In fact, it's best if you just leave it alone and let it sort of develop its flavors. I also wanted to note that I added sugar in the water, and I used brown sugar. So the water's not totally clear. You can use white cane sugar, whatever. But this is what we had on hand. And like I said, pickling for me is a very playful activity. So if you're not afraid of bacteria, good bacteria, and you're not afraid of maybe not liking your end result, or better yet, being very surprised by your end result, pickling is a great hobby, and it's a great thing to do this time of year with just about any vegetable. Anything that is going to leach water when you salt it, like cabbages or carrots, those are excellent things to make ferments with. You can do, I have one right now, it's fennel, and orange peel, and cauliflower, and turmeric. It's going to be an awesome combination. And then when it comes time to make a salad, or you're fixing a charcuterie board for your friends who've come over, it's really easy. You just open the jar and lay it out. So it's like you're doing the work in bulk in advance, and then you have it for your future self. So it's a gift to yourself and to your people. Make sure you label your jars: lacto-ferment, vinegar ferment, and burp your lacto, and just let this one sit out. You can also then put it in your refrigerator so that you can enjoy cold green bean pickles. And that's pretty much it for my demonstration. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something about pickling.